Today, what I'd like to do is review the process of how food gets to your table, really that farm to fork story. This involves a sequence often described as the supply chain. So probably like myself, not very many of us probably ever thought here in the U.S. there'd be a day when we'd show up to the grocery store or local Walmart, et cetera, and see a shortage of toilet paper. You know, for me, I was surprised. I for sure never thought I'd be joining a Facebook group here in Mankato that was titled Toilet Paper Sightings. But the effects of our current situation are much more complicated than we could have foreseen in February of this year, and that's really why I'm here today. I want to talk to you about many of the things you may have seen in the media around meat or food shortages that have occurred since COVID entered and us being in this situation. Likewise, I want to talk about my experiences and what I've seen firsthand as a person involved in the food industry for more than 20 years now as a veterinarian. As we go through, I'm going to pause at different time points too for questions, and I would ask that if you have any questions on any material covered, or if you have questions about swine production, food safety, or anything along those lines, feel free and write it in the chat box, and we will get all of your questions answered as we go along. So let's look at the food chain earlier this year. For the meat industry, the food chain really starts with the growing the feed for the animals. So in the U.S., particularly for pigs, the primary staple of their diet, as this young man is holding up one key component, would be the corn and then also the soybeans for their carefully formulated feeds. As you can see here, our pigs are typically raised in barns. They're born and raised in a protected environment. That barn protects the animals from weather extremes, plus a barn helps isolate those animals from disease and predators. We require most visitors to farms to shower before entering barns, and again, that's to prevent disease introduction. As we go further along here at maturity, pigs are processed as fresh meat. These facilities operate under the supervision of specially trained USDA veterinarians who constantly monitor our food supply for food safety. The U.S. pork supplies three major markets. Those would be the export market, restaurants, and grocery stores. The export market is really big and maybe bigger than what you may have imagined in the pork sector. So historically, a little more than 1/3 of all U.S. pork goes to other countries. China, for example, is a key customer that may take many of the cuts that us in America, that our American families may not typically eat, such as ears and snouts, for example. Mexico is a major customer for hams, but I think also one of the important things is to know that really every part of the pig and pork gets utilized in some respect. The next market is the U.S. food service companies. This would include everything from, you know, your McDonald's McRib sandwich to the tasty, delicious pork chops we enjoy at either dinner, lunch, or even your tasty breakfast bacon and sandwiches or bacon cheeseburgers. And then that third market for pork is our grocery stores. So through this whole worldwide supply chain, virtually everything our farmers produce ends up on your dinner plate. Now, many of you may have seen empty grocery shelves in recent months and wondered what happened. Well, farmers are still growing the grain and farmers are still raising the pigs. Earlier this year, however, several packing plants reported outbreaks of COVID-19 and had to temporarily close or reduce production while the plants reconfigured and deep cleaned, really with that emphasis and priority to keep their people safe so that we could keep the packaging working and plumbed and keeping those employees safe. This temporarily reduced the meat supply, but please, we want to make sure that you know that this disruption was really just at the meat processing level. At no point is the meat supply in jeopardy from a food safety standpoint. The issue really was at hand was with the worker safety health risks from COVID-19 exposure. Plants today are working their hardest to get back to typical production rates. So what's come out of this disruption? Well, as is the same in many sectors, as is the same in how we're even hosting this conference today, farmers and consumers have been resilient and very creative. So in addition to grocery stores, consumers have really begun to look directly to butchers or in some cases farmers to purchase individual meat cuts or whole animals. This actually has provided a unique opportunity, I think, for our farmers to connect directly with people eating the food that they work so hard every day to raise and care for, and gives them a chance to tell their story in terms of what goes into the raising healthy animals and how that leads to the healthy food they consume, which inevitably makes for a healthy planet. So let's take a look at how these animals are raised and the role that I play in our food system. I'm very proud of farmers and veterinarians and everyone that really is involved in our protein sector, pork being included, because this is a labor of love, and we love to share what we do. I would encourage, I am a big fan of the pay it forward philosophy. And I do recognize that in this day and age versus if I were to look back, 50 or 60 years from now, we don't have as many people working in our agriculture sector. So please, any new information you glean or talking points that may help you in conversations that arise after this, please share our story. Because again, we're very proud of what we do. So if you please share as well on any social media platforms that you have. Be sure to add our pork story hashtag. But a little bit more about myself. So, my current role as a swine veterinarian, I work with veterinarians and farmers and producers to really help keep their pigs healthy and happy until they get to our plate. So I'm involved with a lot of research that helps ensure we make the best decisions for our pigs. And I personally am very passionate and have been involved in the animal welfare sector for many years and have served on the American Association of Swine Vet Welfare Committee for over a decade now. So our job really at the end of the day is to raise a happy and healthy pig that becomes part of a nutritious food supply. So I just wanted to outline here some of the critical components that go in to that raising of the pig. So they need proper diet and nutrition, access to fresh water, vaccinations to help from a disease prevention standpoint, similar to what we receive as well during our childhood to help us acclimate and prepare for different pathogens that may come at us throughout our lifetime. Barn sanitation, again, making sure that they are raised in a clean and safe environments that are rich as well is very important. We also want to make sure to protect both the people and the animals that might be exposed to disease and prevent that from happening. All of our pigs require veterinary oversight. And then likewise, it would be in the event that we have an animal that's not feeling well and is sick, we have the responsibility as caretakers to make sure and treat those animals. So specialized care and nutrition does occur during every phase of a pig's life that makes for the safe, nutritious, and consistent product. So what you see here on the screen, moving from left to right, are some of are really the core production phases that we talk about in the pig life cycle. So on the far left, those two would comprise on the sow farms that you may see off the highway, etc. And so the different phases within those sow farms where the moms are the breeding and gestation. That's where she's housed through her pregnancy. And then for pigs, the act of giving birth is called farrowing. And so you can see one of our farrowing monitors holding a baby pig, and that pig typically stays with mom for about 3 to 4 weeks, at which point they move with their pen mates and other litter mates into the nursery period, which lasts for about 7 weeks. And then you've got the final phase, which is the growing and finishing until they are ready for market. And I think most people that don't work with swine, besides all of the TLC that goes into getting them through all of these phases, but even from a nutrition standpoint, during the pig's life between the nursery, growing, and finishing phase, that pig can receive upwards of more than 10 diets throughout that. And they're perfectly tailored to make sure that that growing pig has everything they need along the way. And the same with the moms during pregnancy and after they've given birth, just making sure she has everything she needs to keep her comfortable and happy. So some of the other additional components within raising pigs is to keep them healthy is the importance around disease prevention measures like sanitation and disinfection tools inside the barn. So you see this gentleman here plays a critical role in the process in that between batches of animals coming into a barn, we take particular pains to make sure that those are thoroughly cleaned, disinfected. You can see this gentleman here is power washing the slats. These barns will be cleaned from ceiling all the way down to floor, and then will be disinfected as well before new animals arrive. Really with the goal of keeping the new pigs that are coming in happy and healthy. So similar to, yourselves or family members, or if you've got kids, there are times that unfortunately some pigs might not be feeling as well as needed. And so we do have tools in our toolbox available to help ensure to get those pigs that are identified as sick back to their normal health as quickly as possible. So please know, though, that when pigs need medical attention and may require the use of antibiotics, treatment decisions on the farms are put in place under the recommendation of the veterinarian's guidance that they work with. And these are the antibiotic uses in strict compliance with FDA rules. As a veterinarian, disease prevention is key, but we know some animals along the way may get sick, and so we've got to do what's right and make them better as quickly as we can. If an antibiotic is administered to a pig, withdrawal time is observed to make sure that to ensure that we always have a safe food product delivered at the tail end. And I want you guys to know, besides as a veterinarian, I take great pains, to make sure that the use of antibiotics on farms is done responsibly. The antibiotic decision-making process also happens with me being aware of what is used and applied in the human medicine side too. So we want to protect the tools available and protect, both sectors of health and keep those populations healthy. Likewise, pig farmers know what responsible antibiotic use means, that they only use it when truly necessary to maintain their pig's health. So farmers who combine a long history of proven farming methods while continuously improving the way they raise food using new science and technologies really help ensure their farms continue to prosper for future generations. Sustainable farming has really been at the heart of pig farming through the generations. Through our commitment to raising healthy, safe food, pig farmers have really focused on ways to continuously improve how we raise pigs. And as you can see here, this is just a sort of a showcase of how all of their hard work has really paid off. So you can see that by implementing science-based practices and advancements in ag technology, pig farmers have really achieved some significant milestones here. So if we look back and here these numbers are compared on a pound per pound basis to pork production back in the 1960s. Farmers today really do more with utilizing less resources. So if we look across, they use currently 76% less land than they did 60 years ago. We use a quarter less water. We've reduced our carbon footprint by almost 8% and have reduced energy use as well by 7%. So I always like to think of that and how does that translate, to our day-to-day, into my day-to-day world in terms of energy savings or water savings, et cetera. So to put into perspective, to use that 25% less water that we have actualized in the pork sector, U.S. citizens would have to take 90 fewer showers every year. I'm not promoting you do that per se, but just want to put that into perspective. And likewise, to save the amount of energy that we have seen reductions through the years in pork production, that would be equivalent to American households just quitting using refrigerators as a whole. Lastly, while the emission of any type of greenhouse gas is too much, we do know that pig farming is actually one of the smallest sources of emissions. The EPA estimates the pork industry contributes about 1/3 of 1% of the total U.S. emissions. So off on the left, that's that barely visible sliver there of that 1/3 of 1%. Again, we continue to work with scientists to develop new tools to help farmers further reduce their environmental footprint in the areas of land and water use as well as carbon emissions. So speaking of refrigerators, let's take a minute and see what's in yours, and hopefully that might include what I have on the screen, some yummy, yummy bacon. So I don't know if you guys know, but through the years, the USDA study has shown that ounce per ounce pork tenderloin is just as lean as a skinless chicken breast. The 8 most common pork cuts are on average about 16% leaner today than they were even 25 years ago. Likewise, the amount of saturated fat has been reduced by 27% in our current pork products offered. And then I think interestingly, today's pork is also a protein powerhouse. So a 3-ounce serving of pork tenderloin provides up to 22 grams of protein. Likewise, a 3-ounce serving of pork loin or pork sirloin provides 24 grams of protein. So this one I always take a little more time on because I know recommendations over time have changed in terms of cooking pork, and I want to make sure that you guys all walk away knowing, comfortable how do you maximize, have the best taste experience with the pork products you purchase. So because today's pork is leaner and safer, it actually needs less cooking. So in 2011, USDA guidelines were updated for safely cooking whole cuts of pork, such as our chops, our roasts, and tenderloins to a medium rare internal temperature of 145 degrees. So what I do is I cook it to 145, and then you set it out and let it rest for 3 minutes before it's ready to carve or eat. That is a way to get a scrumptious meal out of your fresh pork cuts. These cuts should result in just it being slightly pink on the inside. Now, to achieve medium doneness, if that's your preferred method, cook the whole pork cuts to 160. Ground pork, like all the ground meats, should still be cooked to that 160 degrees. So I know, given many of your roles in education and knowing that you guys are a trusted source of information for students trying to determine their career path, I'd like to conclude today the presentation portion with an overview of careers in the pork industry. And there are it runs the whole gamut. So not all of them work directly with animals. And so I just wanted to give you sort of a brief smattering of the diversity that we've got within career choices in the pork industry. The same applies in the veterinary path as well. I can attest. I'm always telling vet students that are coming through trying to decide which species to choose, that even within one species sector, there is just a plethora of diversity in terms of the types of opportunities. So we have here, you can see on the left, there's human resources management, which might involve constant communication with management, employees, and benefit providers. We have financial management, which involves the coordination of a company's financial planning, debt financing, and budget management. Sales and marketing is another opportunity within the pork industry. And then on the far right, we of course have career opportunities directly in production, or individuals directly involved with the herd. And these are always in demand. What I see, across our industry is, these are folks with a lot of heart. They are animal caretakers. They are nurturers. They want what's best for the animals. These technicians may perform, again, a wide variety of jobs just based on which production sector they're in. That could be anything from artificial insemination of the girls on the sow farms and the moms, while an animal nutritionist might be working to formulate the feed for pigs that are growing up through the nurseries or the grow-out operations. But it doesn't stop there. There's additional career opportunities exist in research, education, technology. Working through, an ag engineer may not be directly employed by an operation, but they work in tandem with an operations management group to design equipment and buildings. A veterinarian like myself works with pigs in production facility management to take care of the herd's health. But even on the veterinary side, we've got those involved in research, the university level. Again, it runs a whole gamut. And then, of course, in this day and age, on the far right, we have really grown and seen an acceleration in the field of technology and information specialists that combines business knowledge to develop business software to help track herd performance and other data within our operations. If you are interested for more information about careers in the pork industry and resources to help you find the best career path for you or students or people that you may know, please, I would point you to visit the National Pork Board's website, pork.org. The website address is listed on the bottom left. Likewise, many state pork associations have job boards to inform job seekers about entry-level job opportunities that may be available in your area. Finally, if you want to learn more about modern pig farming practices and join in the online discussion, you can go to any of these following resources, the porkcares.org. On Facebook, we've got the Real Pig Farming on Twitter as well, or use the hashtag, hashtag real pig farming or hashtag our pork story. So I want to pause now. Again, thank you for the presentation time. I want to open it up for questions that may have arisen during this talk, and then we are going to, after taking one round of questions that may have come through the chat, we want to take you on a virtual tour of a pig farm, so you can. I know it's not the full 4D with the smell-o-vision yet, but. Well, one day we'll get there, but this is the next best thing, I think, with the virtual tour. So, Jody, were you able to scroll through? Do we have any questions that have come in?
You know, it looks like we've got a pretty quiet group, and I did lay a chat in, and I just asked, you know, does anyone have any questions about how COVID-19 affected our food supply? You know, or even how pigs are raised today, or career opportunities in the pork industry. So I think if you guys have questions on that, now's a great time. If you can, how about you unshare your screen and I can start working on pulling up the virtual farm tour.
Yeah, that'd be.
All right, well, I'm watching the chat. I think we got a pretty quiet group here. I think sometimes this virtual kind of makes people quiet. So let's take a look inside a real farm. So our plans were, just so you guys know, we were going to offer this as a live virtual farm tour. And that means that you would have been speaking live to a student from South Dakota State University. And they would have given you a in-person live tour of a pig farm. And unfortunately, our tour guide, our only one on staff right now, her roommate tested positive for COVID yesterday. So we got notified yesterday about 3 o'clock that she wouldn't be able to show up. So next best thing is we're going to show you a videotaped tour from another student, Caitlin Zemer. And this is from another presentation that we've been given permission to use. You know, Dr. O'Brien, what we had is we had a couple of questions pop up here. Oh, these are great questions, and I think you're going to have a lot to add here. So Julie asked, I heard producers are having to kill pigs as there's nowhere for them to go. Was there something else that could have been done? Oh, I think you're mute. I don't know. I don't hear your voice.
All right. Can you hear me?
Yes, go.
I'm back. No, that's a very good question. And please know that, you know, the first and foremost, our producers and farmers really have taken great pains to try to be creative in terms of outlets that they can, alternative outlets for harvest. So as I mentioned before, folks have now, farmers have turned to trying to have folks or have their pork harvested and processed at local butcheries. Likewise, they've had some reach outs directly with customers. The matter of euthanasia is a tough one. Yes, there has been some of that has had to be done. That's after a farmer has really exhausted all options. They will try to grow out the pigs as possible, but you know, as you can imagine, they're living beings. So but if their euthanasia is a last resort measure, please know that that is performed under the guidelines and approval that have been outlined by the American Association of Swine Veterinarians and the American Vet Medical Association. So the methods employed are centered around making sure that is performed in the most humane fashion possible. So again, not to a large extent, but there have been some scenarios of farmers needing to do that.
Yeah, you know, Dr. O'Brien, I'm going to ask kind of one more question. A lot of us think, you know, and I would have been in this group too if I wouldn't have been working so closely with so many pig farmers, is, you know, why can't we just hold pigs? And then what are kind of some creative ways? I know I've heard of some diets, like changing some diets around that we've, so I guess start with, why can't we just hold pigs on our farm?
Right. So So as you can imagine, every day we have new pigs born, right? And so those new pigs, as I showed you that sliding sort of graph on the production phases, every time a new pig is born, we've also got babies that are coming off of mom and have to move into the nurseries. The ones that leave the nurseries, have to go out to the finishers. And so there becomes a critical mass kind of a situation where, we have a set amount of space to grow out our animals. Again, many farmers have been very creative in this front, tried to, if they have the opportunity to utilize outdoor spaces, they have done that. Likewise, they may house more pigs, but again, we are very strict in terms of animal welfare and husbandry and making sure that the pigs remain in a stress-free environment and are handled the way they need. But you can't, it's not like a bike factory or a car manufacturer where you can just stop the line and stop production. These are live beings that are constantly growing. So there have, as Jody mentioned, some other creative tactics are made in terms of where we've really utilized diets in the past to have pigs grow very efficiently. We may be, for example, in the finisher, I know some folks may be putting more fibrous material in. It might slow their growth down, give them a little time. So we've employed some very different tactics to try to stretch out with available space. And fortunately, given where we are at today versus even just 3 months ago, our production capabilities on the harvest side has improved greatly, and they're very near to being at the same capacity in our harvest facilities. So I'm excited that it's a very short-lived situation, but I think, like us in many different industries, we've been very creative in how to adapt.
Yeah, so
I don't know, Jody, if there's you would add to that.
That's perfect. I think that's perfect. A couple other questions came in. What was economic loss? Do you have any idea to maybe farmers or how that would affect maybe a farm?
Well, unfortunately, again, probably like many of our industry sectors, even outside of pig, outside of just the pork sector, there are substantial losses that farmers have had to incur by not having that constant stream of revenue coming in. And so we will see as if I have my crystal ball to come, we are going to see some farmers, unfortunately, probably be put out of business, not to a large extent. The majority of our folks, we have weathered many storms literally through the years, et cetera, whether that be, different phases of the production cycle factored. But this one, I think we're nearing the end of that, and I'm excited that we've got, what I've seen at the processing facilities, they jumped all in right at the get-go and tried to figure out how can we alleviate the bottleneck as quickly as they could. So, but I don't have a true dollar amount at this point to shake out. There is a big impact, but.
Yeah, I totally agree. I think that was a good way to summarize it. So we had an additional question about the pork supply chain, kind of that, and I think you did a good job of answering it so far, that it's kind of getting very close to moving back to normal. But if there is additional questions on that, I'm not sure I can get your name. I think it's a last name or something. If we have additional questions on that, please go ahead and message that to me or message that to the group, and we'll get that additional question answered. Okay, so if I don't see any more questions, it looks like I checked in with Michelle. We've got about 14 minutes left. This tour is going to be about 9 minutes, so I'm going to go ahead and share my screen. And what I ask of you guys is that you let me know if we have any hearing difficulties. I'm going to unplug my headphones because I've really got to turn the volume up. Again, this was not the most preferred way for us to do this presentation, but we're gonna make this work. I want you to let me know if you have any interruptions in the feed and your volumes. You can let me know that via chat. All right, can everyone still hear me really well?
Okay, perfect. I'm going to go ahead and press play here and turn my volume up very loud.
Let me introduce you to Caitlin Zemer. So Caitlin's a graduate research assistant working on her master's degree in animal science at South Dakota State. She's focusing on swine nutrition, and she works in the swine research and education program. She has a bachelor in animal science from University of Wisconsin, Cedar Falls, and right now Caitlin is standing in the middle of the farrowing room in South Dakota State, and she's going to take us on a little tour of real-life pig production. So Caitlin, take it away.
Thanks, Josh. Hi, everybody. As Josh said, my name is Caitlin Zemer, and I am here at South Dakota State University's Swine Education and Research Center. So a little bit about me before I start. As Josh said, I'm a master's student here at South Dakota working on my, focusing on swine nutrition. Before I came to South Dakota State, I had very little pig experience. So I grew up on what we call a hobby farm, where we raised, still raise, dairy steers. My dad pulls horses, and then we had pigs for the county fair. So I grew up showing pigs, but it wasn't until I came to South Dakota in 2018 that I started working in full production from farrow to finish and learned the ropes of all of it. So as I said, we're here in the Education and Research Center. We are a fully working pig farm, but we focus around, we do a lot of research here and a lot of education. So our students at the university get to come in and come through the swine unit for their classes. So this building was actually built in 2016. So what you will see is very modernized and very up to date, but still relevant to the industry today. And so as you see, I am inside the barn. Okay, so we moved pigs indoors many, many years ago for a few reasons. The first, temperature control. Last week it was a blazing 110 degrees with the heat index. It was hot. 6 months ago we were at negative 60. So that is a huge difference in temperature range. And when pigs are indoors, we can control that temperature. I'm actually kind of sweating a little bit because it's hot in here. It's 75, 80 degrees in this room to keep it comfortable for those piglets that I'm about to show you. Another reason is for disease control. So I had to shower into this barn today. Most barns in the industry today are shower in, shower out facilities because some of the swine diseases that are out there today are some of the most transmittable diseases. So we just want to keep our pigs safe and protected by keeping them inside and following strict biosecurity measures. Another reason is proper care and nutrition. So when they're inside, we can know exactly what they're eating, where their food and the water is coming from, and just eye-to-eye contact with them every day to take the best possible care of them every day. So now I'm going to show you around our farrowing room. And so,
hey, Caitlin,
yeah.
Can you, before you get started there, can you explain what the term farrowing means?
I was just about to, actually.
Okay, go ahead.
So farrowing is the act of giving birth in pigs. So like cows are calving, pigs are farrowing. So this is where the moms give birth, and I will turn the camera around and show you that. So this is one of our rooms. We actually have 2 rooms where there's 24 farrowing stalls in each. So we have 25 sows this month. We do what's called batch farrowing. So we only farrow once a month. So we have 13 in this room and 12 in the other. But here is one of our litters that was just born yesterday. So these pigs are in the farrowing room, these farrowing stalls, for a few reasons. So as you can see, mom's in her own little space and the piglets have their own little space. So we do that because sows can be aggressive. And so we don't want them to be aggressive towards their piglets or towards humans. We also have this, sows can also be, tend to lay down on their piglets and crush them. So these bars help her to lay down slowly and then protect the piglets a little bit more. On each side, we have a heat source. So here is a heat lamp, and over here on the floor, there's a heat mat. So again, providing for some additional heat for those piglets, because mom likes to be about 20 degrees cooler than those piglets do. So to keep her cool, we have her on cast iron, which pulls the heat away from her and keeps her cool. Last week when it was really hot, we have these fancy drip coolers, and they drop water on the back of her neck about every 15 minutes to keep her nice and cool when it's really warm in here. And so we also, so like I said, these babies were born yesterday, but I've never had this happen before. We actually have this girl right next to her in active labor. So as soon as they're born, my friend Shannon over there is cleaning those piglets off and drying them off. So as soon as they're born, we take a drying agent and then dry them off and get them close to mom as soon as possible so they can get the nutrients that they need for their very weak immune systems when they're born. And so another reason we have them in here is because each individual sow can get, sow is our term for mom pig, just for those of you that may not know that. But we have some advanced technology in here. So this feeder can tell us so many things. So for right now, I'm just gonna focus on this orange here. So this means that this mom has a scoop available to her. So that means that if she wants to get up and eat, she's got more than enough available to her. These sows eat as much as they want, but we try to limit it to about once every hour. And they're also on a curve. So right now, she's eaten 76% of her total daily allotment. So with technology like this, we can really monitor what she's eating. And because if that was 25%, then we really have to take a look and say, okay, does she have a fever? Is she not feeling well? Because if not, then we need to do something. Because if she's not eating, she's not producing milk, and then the piglets aren't getting the nutrients that they need to grow into healthy pigs. And so with that, that's about all I have for the tour, but I will be happy to answer any questions that you guys may have.
You guys have any questions?
All right, so that was our tour of a pig farm. You know, I think Dr. O'Brien, as we were taking the tour, you were nodding your head, so you've definitely seen this. And I think what's really cool is that this is the way, you know, many of our pigs are raised. So at this point, you know, ask some questions if you've never seen the inside of a pig farm, if there's anything else that Dr. O'Brien can clarify for you. Yeah, this is your opportunity to ask a few more questions.
Well, and I'll add too, Jody, while we're waiting for any questions, that, you know, I always get tickled, you know, when we showcase videos like that, because, or talk about the ins and outs of the different phases like a farrowing, because I think for those that aren't in there, you know, I've gotten comments in the past of how surprised they were in terms of the amount of sophistication there is to keep check on our animals and make sure that they're feeling well. I mean, you know, as you saw with those electronic monitors on the feeding stations, they're able to, you know, they're able to better discern how the sow's feeling than probably myself, you know, halfway through a day if I'm not feeling up to it. And then likewise, I often get the comments, you know, we've got a lot of different personnel that are involved in that phase, that I've had some folks equate it to, you know, their own stint in the hospital when they deliver babies. I'm like, yep, they get that level of TLC, both the mom and those babies, while they're in there, and that really happens throughout the whole life cycle. So
yeah,
so it's fun for me to watch.
Yeah, and you know, I think those, especially those of us who might not be involved in pig farming every day, when we think of pig farming, I think the vast majority of us still think of, you know, muddy boots and pens. And it's always kind of eye-opening when we take people for tours, whether it be virtual or not, that our barns are as clean as they are. It's not what you envision. You know, it's funny because I'm in Kansas, and when the cowboys ask me if they want to work on a feedlot, they always say, well, I don't want to work with pigs because it'll be stinky and muddy. And I'm like, no, actually, that's the way feedlots are, and the pigs, you're inside. So I don't think it's normal. Like, we just don't expect that from a pig farm. So, you know, we don't have any questions right now. I'm going to let you wrap up with any final comments you have. And if Michelle, you need to say anything too. Oh, I guess I've got one more thing. I fibbed to everybody. I'm going to lay in an evaluation, a link to an evaluation in the comment chat box. It just allows us to get better at our job. If you could take just a couple of seconds, follow that link over and fill out 5 short questions, that'll give us some great feedback on this session. And Dr. O'Brien, I'll let you wrap it up.
Yeah, no, thank you, Jody. And again, thank you to everyone for attending today, and for those putting the conference together, for the opportunity for us to share our story. I know this is just a snippet, on protecting the food supply. If left to my own devices, I could probably talk ad nauseum for weeks on the intricacies of pork production. So if you do have more questions or curiosities, I guess, around different components, feel free and reach out to myself, or I really encourage going to the National Pork Board site, because there's just a deluge of information that really goes through everything to do. And if you come across, in your day-to-day too, with farmers that you want to ask the question, again, it's a labor of love. They're all happy to tell you the ins and outs of what they do, same as I pick people's brains in other industries because I want to know the ins and outs of theirs. And again, if you get questions, that really pertain to anything covered here, just remember my pay it forward kind of philosophy. I'd appreciate it. Armed with knowledge is key, and if you can help with those discussions, we appreciate that. So thank you.